Hi, I'm Florian Link. I'm a professional options and futures trader, and we're back again with another weekly watch list. This week, today is the 13th of April, tomorrow market open. Probably expecting to open up higher due to Trump pausing tariffs over the weekend for, I think it was mobile phones and like tech hardware, chips, all of that. So I do believe that the market is going to open up tomorrow, gapping up and therefore probably rally really strongly off the open. With that in mind, this is something important to keep in mind for all the ideas now, as we can likely assume that they'll be opening up higher, which is going to be important for this week and setting up actually overall the market setting up pretty bullish. So opening up higher now definitely gives the edge to the bulls for the coming week, in my opinion. But let's get right into it with gold. Over the week, last week, basically since Wednesday, gold has seen an absolute insane rally, breaking to new all-time highs. And now here we're on the 4 hour. We can also go down to the hourly, where it already kind of made a high low back above this previous all-time high, which is pretty strong. But you can also now look for gold to pull back a little bit on retest, maybe after moving higher a little bit, but you can already see it starting to weaken here with these wicks. So retests of this previous all-time high at 3,200 are going to be super crucial here, and we're looking to hold them for more upside out of gold. Next up, we're going to go for the IWM, just like last week. It's still setting up bullish in my opinion here. I do like the breaks above these highs for the continuation higher. I think the daily looks pretty strong here, actually, looking to launch higher and assuming that we are opening up higher probably. I think any pullback holds into these highs here, into like here, holding these highs from all the way over here are pretty strong for bounces. But I do think that this retest area right here, if you go to the daily as well, you can see it is a really, really strong retest area here again. So I think even if you move into that, I would de-risk into it and also look to short the market, even with a more of a swing trade kind of position, holding it potentially overnight, even though I don't really like doing that with Trump being Trump at the current moment, but it's that kind of position in my opinion. Then next, I think DAX is actually setting up pretty nicely as well. The 200 did hold. You can see these continual wicks coming in at the zone for the move higher. So I think it's kind of setting up here this double bottom. So break above this recent high could lead to some upside here on a bounce. Again, this is the hourly, right? If you go a bit higher for the 4 hour, it's already also making a higher low with a double bottom here. But nonetheless, I would want to see this move higher, the break higher, and then get interested on the retracement back into this area here, not before, as right now it's still a bit of a downtrend. So the break of the downtrend is nice, but then it also needs to hold a retest in order to be able to move higher there. Nextly, let's move on. Just going to quickly actually skip to copper and oil. But copper here is looking pretty bullish structure-wise. But I do think that these lows could actually be pretty strong if we keep rejecting them. I'm unsure about how copper is going to behave with these news. But if we do see a trend switch lower, right, and we are able to move lower again off this zone, then make the lower higher low, it's kind of setting up this head and shoulders. And also just think, given that this seems to be a nicely strong level, a rejection would be nice. Recaptures for the long could be on the table as well, moving back above the 200 daily. But my main trade idea here was probably the short, to be totally honest. Also because I think the daily is setting up nicer for the short than for the long, in my opinion here, at least the way it is right now. Then oil. Oil is also setting up for rejection lower. I think it was really obvious on the daily, yeah. I think these daily candles look pretty nice also at the zone, rejecting this big low over here and these lows all the way over here. Obviously oil is really choppy, but I do think oil has had some downside momentum here, and I do think it can continue lower, already setting up the rejection of this area here. So it could be interesting to see, but kind of has to develop first here really, and properly move lower on the 4 hour as well. That was oil. And then let's get into some stocks here, which I'm watching for the week. Obviously, as usual, Google. I think Google is pretty strong long here. Looking at the daily, it's setting up pretty nice for just the upside continuation after holding lower, after holding this range on the wick here. If you go to the 4 hour, you can see same kind of idea, making the 4 hour high low with the hourly already holding these highs here on the Thursday close, and then managed to move higher here on Friday. So any pullbacks into these 157.50, I think can become really interesting for upside momentum here. Then next stock is going to be Microsoft. Microsoft, as you can see, like I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I do think that this rejection level seems quite strong here, so I would be kind of careful going into it. But also the daily is looking pretty decent here. Though I don't know, I'm just not too sure about Microsoft, to be totally honest. I think the hourly looks decent for holding this 384 area for a bit of upside continuation, but if the trade's not there, the trade's not there, and I wouldn't be too mad about it either. Next up, we have Amazon. Amazon is double bottoming right here, trying to hold back above these lows, this low over here, and the areas where it's been rejecting over the last week. Looking at the 4 hour, it's already starting to make this nice 4 hour high low, but this zone right here is what I'm worried about, the 91, 92 area. I think as it's already rejected there on Wednesday, I think it can do so again. And this seems like a pretty strong zone, which going into it, I wouldn't be long, especially if we're considering the market's opening up higher likely. Going into this zone, I wouldn't long it. Pullback holds of this kind of neckline double bottom area could be interesting for upside continuation though. So watching that for now. Otherwise, if we do reject this zone again, I think there's some nice downside on like a very steep bear flag break though. Which could be nice, but also I think the bounce into it, if we don't just open up way higher, is a decent long as well. Then let's look at Robinhood here. Robinhood has been able to move higher nicely here, especially on Friday, actually making some nice progress higher, but now already back at some kind of lows and a bit of a sketchy zone. But I do think that a break above here and then the retest hold can become interesting, but I do think it does take some more time. Like I wouldn't be the biggest fan if it immediately pulls back and tries to hold, but like I want some upside continuation than the pullback holding, which I guess would align with the market opening up higher likely. So that's actually pretty decent trade to watch on the Monday open as well. Next, Nvidia held lower here. The recent highs managed to break and retest this higher, which is really nice. Otherwise, I think this zone higher here, there are still some pretty strong lows that could start to reject, as they did on Wednesday. And it's the same kind of idea, like if you're going into rejection zone, like you're going into rejection zone, and you should be careful about that. It is somewhat similar to Amazon, just less clean. So pullback holds could be something here, but I don't really think I like them on Nvidia. I would rather wait for the retest to see what happens there, to be totally honest. Then I want to look at Marvell. I think Marvell is actually looking at setting up pretty bearish compared to like all the other names. As you can see, I think Marvell actually has some downside potential of the open tomorrow. As it's kind of like, if you look at it here, it's kind of like a pretty steep bear flag in a way, and it's already setting up the lower high for the exit. Like I think if we just off the open get like no upside follow through here and just fail below this low, like the Friday area, and then I think there's a lot of downside for that, as it's kind of breaking this bear flag and already making the lower high for the exit. So that's definitely something I would want to watch on breaks below like the 5150s. I think it can become very, very interesting, and maybe even before that into the lows, but careful about that as they held pretty strongly on Friday. Then Walmart actually was able to see a lot of downside since kind of the Trump pump, and it was actually able to hold it, unlike most of the other market. And it started to range here at the highs, but then moved higher on Friday. This is kind of more of like a wait and see kind of thing. I do think the pullbacks into the 90s can become interesting here for the holds, and then just a proper trend which breaking above the range now once again, and kind of moving back inside previous support zones. But otherwise, it is really just a patience trade. I don't like anything that's above. I also don't really like the rejection above either. I'm literally just looking for that long here out of Walmart. Then Affirm I wasn't really a fan of the way it looked on Friday. And I still think it needs a lot of time here. These lows just have been super, super strong, and we weren't able to get above them. But what I am kind of feeling here is like a pure intuition kind of thing is we move higher and then we pull back and we kind of make this, like, let me just draw it in like the head and shoulders kind of idea here, then for the move higher. But then again, it's moving to these lows, so you probably want to de-risk into it, and then recaptures above these lows could become interesting once again. But if the trade's not there, the trade's not there. Like, it's specifically this kind of head and shoulders idea that I'm looking for. Otherwise, I don't think a short is strong here for just trend continuation. Don't like it. Too strong of a zone below. And then already just, it has to move higher first, like properly move higher, probably break above this Thursday afternoon high as well for me to properly like it, and then hold for the move higher. So that's a firm. Next up, PayPal is moving back above these highs of last week on Friday. Break and retest of these highs, I think, can set up a pretty nice bounce. If you look at the higher time frames as well, 4 hour is setting up pretty nicely for just some upside continuation, as well as the daily. So you probably want to see like a quick pullback of the open. Again, if it's opening up higher, then trade's kind of gone. If it's not, pull back into the 6150 area, hold it quickly, and then move higher. Not spend a lot of time here. Really just a wick is kind of all we want. Doesn't even have to reach all the way down here. Just make a higher low here for the continuation, as it's otherwise setting up pretty strongly. Then Visa, I'm kind of unsure about Visa, how to play it, even if I should play it. I just think that this previous all-time high hold back above could become really interesting. But then again, it's also at a point where it could start rejecting, where it rejected on the Thursday post-Trump news, and just a rush lower afterwards. I think this, as you can see, like, it's been rejecting at the 342, 343 area pretty strongly, and it's retesting these kind of lows. But yeah, I don't know. I think the overall idea just seems long, but short term, it's just like one to watch, but no real trade idea out of this one. Broadcom, on the other hand, is setting up pretty strong here, but then the 186.5s are super dangerous. It's already reapproaching the daily 200, which I'm not a fan of, and the continued rejection of this really, really strong range here of the bottom of it seems quite strong, especially because it's been such a steep riser once again. I feel like a breakdown can literally be like a 10%, 15% kind of breakdown if the market is weak as well. So I don't really like a long here. I think the short on a rejection higher is pretty strong though. Next up, we have Snow. Snow is, the daily looks nice. Like, the daily looks pretty long here, as it has these two super nice wicks lower, holding the 200. So it breaks above these lows and then holding them can become interesting, but it has to be above the lows. Otherwise, it's just not interesting for the move higher. It then also would be making this double bottom here. So break above, hold is the name of the game, really. Next up, Shopify is going to be a quick one. Not really liking the long here. It looks very similar to a firm, but I'm still just looking for these lows to reject on a proper retest, as well as the 200 daily. But this is a quick one. Similar to Roku, I think on a strong market, it can bounce higher here, since the daily is setting up nice back above these lows. But otherwise, I also see the rejection over, just like Marvell, exiting out of this bear flag. So it's one to watch. Spreads have not been great on this. It's not been moving nicely. The hourly definitely looks more bullish, but it's you gotta be careful about this one for sure. Oracle, I think Oracle is setting up. Like, I like the rejections more here, as it's back below these lows and just not showing as much strength as other names are. But for some reason, my intuition is telling me that this can bounce high into the 137s. At which point it's definitely bearish, at least short term. But I can definitely see it just turning around here. It just feels familiar, like a familiar pattern. So I think it can be interesting, especially like Oracle could profit off these news over the weekend. But therefore, I'm not sure about the strength of the short. Also not sure about the long though. At least it would have to develop first. Like, if it opens up higher and then pull back holds, could be interesting. But if it opens up really close to these highs and then rejects already, that feels more bearish. A difficult one for sure. Like, I must say though, and you'll see you have already seen and you'll see throughout this video, I'm not the biggest fan of the setups this week. There's nothing that I'm like totally in love with, which just shows like the craziness of last week, really. MS, the high time frames just don't look that strong. When you go lower though, the hourly looks really strong for this double bottom neckline hold of these lows on the pullback. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, if it opens up higher, the trade's gone. It's not long. And you're probably not even looking for a short either. I think the stock's just gone in that case. Citi has earnings on Tuesday, so that needs to be kept in mind. Otherwise, I really like breaks below this and then lower highs setting up. I think that looks really nice. But it could also be, if it opens up higher, it could be an interesting long off the open for the bounce higher. It's already starting to like kind of hold these recent highs here on the move. So I think that could be interesting. It's one of those where you just got to see on the open if it's long, and if it's not, then wait for the short below 60. Next up is Apple. Apple is back at this previous all-time high zone, which you can see all the way from over here, which held once on the carry trade reaction and then has been rejecting last week. And I'm looking for this to reject again. It won't, as tariffs will probably lead to it opening up above the lows, in which case a retest hold of the highs can become interesting. But right now it looked short with the news. I'm assuming it's opening up higher. If it is, then pull back longs. If it's not, the short is back on the table. Next up, we see MasterCard. Obviously, you would assume it trades similar to Visa. I just think it's a worse setup. I think the pullback holds do look a bit stronger here on MasterCard potentially, but also this is just kind of one to watch if the pullback becomes interesting or not, but it's not the most interesting stock out there. Roblox is back at these very strong lows, which it just can't really get followed through off or get through them, but breaks above and holds of them are looking strong. It looks just like upside pressure, like this clear ascending triangle here. Upside pressure, breakthrough, maybe opening up high as well. Pullback holds. I think they do look strong. AMD is setting up for the rejection low. Again, I don't think it will now with tariff news, but if it doesn't just open up back above like 96, 97, I think it sets up really nice for the lower high continuation setting off here. As it's kind of already making this rounded top on the hourly, which just needs on the lower time frames to now switch trend, and then it's just a straight flush lower. If we're opening up higher, the trade's gone. Disney, I'm just kind of keeping on here because it traded really nicely last week. I think a break below 83 can become interesting again, breaking below the Friday low and the Thursday low for the lower high, and then break and retest, exiting the bear flag for sell continuation. I don't really like the longs here. Qualcomm, again, remains one of those long watchers looking for this big break and retest potential at the 150s in a way. Other than that, it's just uninteresting. Reddit is kind of like a overall long-term kind of idea. Like it retested its IPO base here, these highs. It kind of retested this already and started to hold it. So I think I really like the idea of it moving back above these lows, like the 104, 105 area, and then moving off it again after holding the IPO base. But it is super dangerous right now in the shorter time frames, as it just can also just continue to reject these lows. But I'm not interested in a low rejection, to be totally honest, because I think this overall idea, this overall theme is a lot stronger for the long. And therefore, unless we see the long, I just don't want to see myself entering a position here. Then moving on to the last few ones, these are just like watches to have in mind, but no real like strong ideas. I don't trade these stocks that often. With first one being Coinbase. I think Coinbase is setting up nicely for either recaptures of these lows here for the move higher, or just clean break and retests. Depending on where it opens up, I think the break and retest is a lot stronger for more downside. we would be a bit more patient on the break higher and the pullback holds. But I think both are actually on the table as it's just such a significant level that's at. So both are very interesting on Coinbase here. Salesforce, eventually the break and retest become interesting. Until then, I don't really like this. It's kind of in this, again, this steeper bear flag. You could see an immediate exit lower, but given how Salesforce is trading and the spreads on it, I would really prefer to see the proper retest of the 270s first. Adobe, I think the eventual break and retest of the 375 is on the table. Right now it's setting up pretty long with making this nice double bottom here and already starting to make a high load, which is just looks like it's ready to exit it. So if you then go down to the hourly, you can actually see it making a double bottom as well. Holding the neckline here could become interesting if it opens up higher and holds a pullback for the bounce higher, but 375 is short 100%, or at least de-risk into it. Uber is setting up pretty long. I think Uber is probably one of the strongest long setups right here because there's not much above. The daily looks really nice if it just is able to break these like 3-day highs here. The hourly looks really clean for the ascending triangle, double bottom kind of idea if it just makes a pullback holding this Thursday high here. I think this could become really, really interesting for the move higher. And 4 hours also just looking for upside continuation here. So Uber's one to watch, especially off the open if it's a bit slower holding and then immediately moves higher. Intel, I think, can also be long here on a nice turnaround, holding these lows, failing to break below, recapturing it on the higher low on Friday now. Just looking for clear upside continuation here out of Intel. Probably hourly needs to make a high low first here for it to proper move higher. And again, the daily looks incredibly strong. So this is one to watch for sure, but be patient on it. Don't trigger into it too quickly. Intel just hasn't shown a lot of strength recently. So for a long, you really need some conviction on this. JPM, another banking stock, reported earnings on Friday were pretty good. Setting up this pretty strong bear flag though. And I'm just watching for, like, if you look at the 4 hour as well, it just doesn't look that long. So I'm just looking for the eventual trend switch, which I really want to see first. I'm not interested in these moves higher as it's still in this uptrend. I need to see the trend switch first on the hourly properly, like moving lower and then pulling back and making a lower high properly for this to become interesting. So this is more of like a weak watch. Pepsi is actually looking pretty long here. Same idea as Intel, breaking below these recent lows right here, but able to recapture back above, setting up a really nice daily high low here. So I'm actually really interested in the high break of Friday. The 4 hour doesn't look amazing, I must admit. But if the hourly can make a quick early higher low here and then exit this kind of bull flag idea, right? Kind of have this bull flag idea here. If it's able to hold quickly and then exit higher, holding the break, then I think the continuation high becomes really interesting for that. And last stock today is going to be Delta Airlines, which is actually going to be a short setup as I'm looking for it to continue rejecting these lows at 40.85, setting up this 4 hour lower high. If it breaks above, I'm not interested in the long here as it just previously haven't gotten for any follow through, and it's just been super weak. Like, I'm looking for a rejection. If it's not there, it's not there, and that's fine as well. But with that being said, this is my watch list for the week. Depending on how the week goes, I might do another broader check-in throughout the week. I'll also probably be uploading some daily watch lists. By the way, the daily watch lists don't come out every day, only on days where I think the setups are interesting. For example, you saw on Friday I didn't upload a daily watch list video, but that was mainly because I just didn't see anything in the market. The weekly watch list will come regardless of what the market's looking like. As you can see today, I'm not the biggest fan of the setups either, but it's good to have an idea going into the week. On the day, if the setups aren't there, then there's going to be no video, as I just don't think the value is going to be there if there are no setups to actually trade, or the setups require more expertise and attention than I can convey to you via this video. So just with that, keep that in mind. Just make sure to stay safe out there, traders, and STG.